Brothers and sisters, in last week's khutbah, I shared with you a beautiful picture of taqwa, described to us, a picture painted for us by Umar radiallahu anhu, in which he compared the result of having taqwa, the outcome of being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the effect of being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a person who was walking very carefully, treading very carefully through a path filled with bushes and shrubs full of thorns. Game of thorns, if you will. How fasting helps us gain this taqwa. We heard about how fasting the whole month helps us raise awareness of the fact and reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us at all times, watching us at all times, and knowing everything that we do. It is about raising the awareness and conscious that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears everything we say, knows everything we hear, and sees everything that we see and everything that we do. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam. O people who believe, fasting has been ordained upon you. It has been prescribed for you. Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Just as it was prescribed and ordained and obligated for those people who came before you, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you can gain taqwa. This is ayah number 183 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Now for today's khutbah, I'm not going to articulate a nice and long introduction to build the momentum for today's khutbah. I will jump headfirst into the crux of what I want to talk about, and we'll discuss only one ayah today. So listen attentively with the intention to be inspired. And please turn your cell phones off. In verse number 185, 2 verses after the one I just quoted before you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. We hear this again and again, this verse. But at the same time, we also hear that Ramadan is a month of fasting. Correct? And there is no doubt that fasting tends to be the obvious underlying act and the physical deed that is performed in Ramadan. But in this ayah, in ayah number 185, which happens to be the one and only ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the month of Ramadan to be the month of Quran, the month of revelation. Not alladhi tasumuna fi, not the month of fasting, not the month of feasting, not the month of fried food and the pink milk. No, it is the month of fasting, the month of Quran, the month of revelation. And when it comes to fasting in particular, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that in the first verse that I quoted in front of you. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. That we have been prescribed fasting as the nations before you. So fasting is something that always existed. In whatever variation, in whatever definition that was defined and declared for any ummah, Fasting always existed. But what makes us special, what makes this ummah exceptional, is the Quran. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. The book that has no single doubt. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for those who fear Him. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما. The Quran does not have any doubt, nor a shadow of a doubt, nor any crookedness. There is nothing shady in the Quran. It is qayyim. It is something that is straight, straightforward, keeps others straight, and keeps all in check. It is the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The final message, the Quran. It is the Quran that makes us special. It is because of the Quran that we are guided. And this is the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to bless with His final message. This is the month He chose to send His guidance to the world that was covered and engulfed in ignorance and darkness. It was in this month that Allah sent His book, His message as a guide to save people from the many trips and traps of shaitan and bring them towards the highway of heaven, the path to paradise. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The Quran is our constitution. We live in this world, right? Many of us are affiliated with many countries, our backgrounds, our nationalities. The day a constitution is formed in any nation, when it is ratified, that particular day for that nation, for those people, is something that is celebrated. It is commemorated, just like last week, in which this country celebrated the signature, the signing into the Declaration of Independence. So, anytime a constitution is formed, a nation is inaugurated, it calls for a celebration. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The Quran is our constitution. Now what is the Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ. It is a guidance for all of mankind. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. Clear proofs of that guidance. Allah does not just make a statement or a claim, but He backs it up through His message with proof of that guidance. الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Islam and the Quran makes very clear what is right and wrong. It sets the standard and the criteria. Our constitution that Allah chose to send down in the month of Ramadan. How do we celebrate it? فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ. Whichever one of you witness it. Look at the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words. Allah did not say فَلْيَصُمْهُ. He said فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever witnesses this month. What is witnessed? Something that is extraordinary. Something that is special. A spectacle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that if you are around to witness the arrival of this month, and not everyone will. And those who started may not finish it. And we had an example yesterday where a beloved brother of our community, who we talked with, walked with, greeted, who ate with us every evening, pretty much, who ushered in the children of our school every morning. He is no longer here to witness that month end. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill his grave with his nur. May Allah elevate his status in Jannatul Firdaus. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Fast it. The way we celebrate our constitution, the inauguration of this ummah that started at the cave of Hira, the way we commemorate that inauguration, the way we celebrate our constitution is by fasting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what is this fasting? You know, in every profession that you see in this world, especially the professions that involve or that deal with facing danger or saving other people's lives, professions that really make a difference between life and death, firefighters, police officers, in professions where people go in a field that is a threat to their lives. They go through a certain training. They go through a certain process. If you wanted to become a firefighter, are they going to put that suit on you and here, grab this hose, there's a fire on 27th. Here, go put that fire out. Is that how it works? Oh, you want to be an officer of the law? Here's a badge, here's a gun. Go down to the French Quarter and answer this domestic abuse call. Is that what happens? Oh, so you want to fight for your country? Here's your gear, ship you off to Iraq. Is that what happens? No. There is a training building. There is a simulation. There are mock fires. There are those things that pop out, the cutouts of those criminals, right? And then they'll have pop-ups where someone has their hands up, a civilian. You're put through a training, a test. Who to shoot, who not to shoot. How to react. The military has training facilities. They have intensive training. And you have to be up for the physical and the mental and the emotional challenge. When a person is training, the challenge is eased. You are not put in harm's way. You are not put in danger. There is a simulation, a training. And once you reach the certain level, once you are certified and you are trained and you're ready for the field, then and only then do they send you out into the field, into the streets, or into the war zone. Brothers and sisters, Ramadan is actually a training. And while we are in this training, the challenge is eased. How? By the challenge being locked up and shackled for 30 days. Who is our challenge? Who is our enemy? Shaitan. He is shackled up for 30 days to ease the challenge so we can train ourselves. 30 days of solid training. And what is this training? Obviously, the most practical and manifest thing that we do in this month is not eat, drink, and not get intimate with our spouse during the day. Right? This is the most practical thing. But the essence behind that is to develop a conscious and awareness that is not only affiliated with our eating and drinking, etc., but it makes us aware of everything that we say, everything that we see, everything that we hear, an awareness that spills out into our business dealings, how we treat one another, to act like we have a camera sitting right over our head, to develop that type of awareness, to act as if an enforcer of the law is right in front of us. You know, sometimes when we're driving, right, we'll be going past the limit, طغيان, right? We'll be crossing the limit while we're driving. We may not abide by all the rules. And what happens as soon as a person sees a police car? A person slows down. A person puts his seatbelt on. If a person's texting and holding the steering wheel with his knee, that goes away, depending on which state you're in. What happens? We get aware and conscious, right? Imagine if we're driving and in our rear view mirror we see the lights flash. What happens? Ya laytani. We get aware. And then what happens? That cop is actually not after us. He pulls to a side and takes over and goes to answer some call. Alhamdulillah. If you have ever experienced this feeling while you drive, this was an exercise of your taqwa. Not necessarily of Allah, but it was an exercise nonetheless. It is a spiritual experience. Whoo! Guess what happened? Oh man, I almost got pulled over. Right? When we cross the limits. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has limits as well. Now, how do you get this awareness of Allah just by staying hungry and thirsty? This is a riddle. This is the riddle of Ramadan. Imagine you're at work, right? You work at a business. You work in an office environment. And your co-worker's like, oh man, it's so hot today. Or the person in the cubicle next to you opens up his food and you can smell kung pao chicken. What does your throat tell you? Drink, drink. But what does your heart say? No, no. What does your stomach say? Eat, eat. What does your heart say? No, no. Wait till Maghrib. Wait till Abu Imad calls the adhan. Wait till the sun sets. When you see the commercial and the shrimp are falling on the plate and then they bounce up and all those crumbs. Yes, I'm sorry. And all the crumbs go flying. Your stomach says eat, eat, but your heart says no, no. This is a constant battle that is going on for 30 days, where your heart is saying no, 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 and your body is saying yes, yes, yes. And we go through this for 30 days, and every day who wins? Our heart wins. We go through 30 days of our heart winning this battle to train us for the 11 months when our eyes say, look, look. Our heart says, no, no. Our hands say, do, do. Our heart says, no, no. Our feet say, go, go. Our heart says, no, no. Our ears say, hear, hear. Our heart says, no, no. This is the riddle of Ramadan. This is how our heart develops the taqwa to be able to say no, no. And guess what? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shackled up the shaitan, even for a person who is not at a particular high religious level, a person who does not see the masjid once, even that person has reservations in the month of Ramadan. Hey, let's go party. No, man, it's Ramadan. Let's go here. No, it's Ramadan. Let's watch this. No, it's Ramadan. That's why last year, when we started Ramadan a day late, Batman came out the night before. Everyone went to watch Batman. Why? Because we'll have to wait 30 days. This is the reservation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in a person's heart through the blessing of Ramadan. People step back in Ramadan. Our hearts get stronger, stronger, stronger. And where does taqwa live? It lives in our heart. The Prophet ﷺ has said in a hadith, and near the end of the hadith he says, At-taqwa hahuna. Taqwa is right here. It is in our chest. And our heart is in our chest. Taqwa is right here. This is how we train ourselves. And it is the winning heart, the heart that says no, no, no. It is that heart that helps us attain taqwa. And when we have taqwa, we are always reminded of Allah. And when we always keep Allah first, when we always make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala our priority, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. And when Allah loves somebody, in the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the hadith al-Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ كُنْتُ سَمْعُهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ. When I have love for a person, I become the ears that he hears with, the eyes that he sees with, the hands that he does with, and the feet that he walks with. If he asks, I will give him. And if he seeks my protection, I will take him under my wing and under my protection. When we build and develop the heart that says no. And we have a battle ahead of us for 11 months. And guess what? In those 11 months, we will get pricked. We will get hurt. We will get wounded. And then Ramadan will come again to mend our heart, to heal our heart, so we can train again and work in the battlefield against Shaitan and his henchmen for the other 11 months to refresh us. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about if the fact that you're sick or if that you are traveling, make it up at another time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Before, in the beginning of Islam, there was no 30 days of fasting. There were selective days of fasting. And you had a choice. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained the whole month of fasting. And if you can't fast, you have to make it up at another time. There's obviously other exclusions. That is a matter of fiqh and not a matter of the minbar. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He wants ease for us. How? You went from 9-10 days to 30 days. You went from the option to mandating fasting. How is that easy for us? Well, the heart that has taqwa is the heart that has guidance. The heart that has guidance is the heart that has happiness. How is it that some people find it so hard to pray, even one prayer, so hard to pick up the Quran, so hard to educate their children about Islam? Some people find some things so hard to do, while at one side, a person does everything he is supposed to do. And slips and fumbles along the way, but he does for the most part, the best he can. When a person does what he is supposed to do, that person is given contentment, satisfaction, and happiness. And the happy person is the person at ease. A person with guidance is the person at ease. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah does not want difficulty for us. It sounds kind of redundant that Allah wants to make it easy for you. He does not want to make it hard for you. That kind of means the same thing. Well, guess what? It's like a father telling their child when he wants to discipline him. And he says, you can't do this. No, you have to do your homework first. Or you have to do this first. And the kid is sad and crying. Listen, beta. Listen, son, ya ibn al-halal. I only want the best for you. I don't want anything bad for you. وَلِتُكْمِلُ الْعِدَّةِ. And guess what? You gotta do the whole 30 days. You can't bail out. And people don't bail out. For someone who can barely skip a meal, now fasting 15 and a half hours a day, 15 hours a day is like child's play. And after our training is done, what happens? When a person graduates, they walk on the stage, people are cheering, people are clapping, people are congratulating that person. When we finally get ready at the end of the 30 days, or 29, what is our cheer? How do we celebrate? وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ. Shaitan is about to be unshackled. He waits for the moon too. He waits for the moon too. And when he gets unshackled and he comes back to this world and gets back in the battlefield, millions of Muslims are walking to the field saying, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. We are showing him that we are ready to take him face on. We are ready for his challenge. Bring it on. This is verse 185 from Surah Al-Baqarah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to absorb the true message in this ayah and allow us to utilize the month of Ramadan for what it has to offer. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Brothers, please come close.